Sir Francis Drake. This is the man most deserving to be in the Explorers Hall of Fame. First off, he was born about 1540. He ended up being the oldest out of 12 other sons to Mary Millway and Edmund Drake. His father Edmund was very poor and just a farmer, so instead Francis grew up with his cousin John in the Hawkins family. The family made its money by being merchants and privateers. A privateer is an armed ship owned and officered by private individuals holding a government commission and authorized for use of war. He grew up in the small town of Devon, located in South England. It was full of sandy beaches and also many cliffs. But what exactly did Francis Drake do that makes him worthy to be in the Explorers Hall of Fame? Well, first off, we could talk about his major help in defeating the Spanish Armada, or we could talk about his countless victorious raids, or we could even talk about the journey he took all the way across the world. But first off, we'll talk about the journey. Now, how long exactly does it take a crew of 5 ships to go all the way across the world? Well, for Francis Drake, it took him about 3 years. The men left in 1577, and it took them about 550 days to reach what, as we know today, as California. The only ship out of the 5 to make it was Francis Drake's. His ship was named the Pelican, which he later renamed the Golden Hen. They reached the Pacific in October of 1578. Well, what happened to the other 4 ships? Well, they lost 2 of the ships in terrible storms. One of the ships disappeared, and the other ship turned around headed back to England. This leads us to what can happen in such a long trip. You're definitely going to face extremely cold conditions which can lead to death. Francis had to get one of his men arrested and almost beheaded for trying to rebel against him. You also might encounter some terrible diseases. If you're the one to get seasick, this trip is not for you. These are just a couple of things of the huge list that can happen on this trip. Finally, we will talk about Francis Drake's major role in the Spanish Armada. Tension between England and Spain was at its highest. In 1583, Philip II sent an invasion into England, known as the Spanish Armada. This was the Spanish fleet of nearly 130 ships that sailed on August 1588. After many successful battles for the English led by Francis, they finally forced the Spanish army to retreat. Some of the ships crashed and the men drowned. Also, some of the men got stuck in Scotland and were killed by English soldiers. Over a third of the Spanish army was not able to return back to Spain, and they could never send back another invasion. Francis Drake died a hero to England in January of 1596. I know for sure this man was worthy of being in the Explorers Hall of Fame.